Yo guys, what's going on? Robert Warshack here, and we finally have balance changes for Standard. I know the last balance changes, it was only like 2-3 weeks ago, but it feels like an eternity. Standard has, I've been playing, let's just say, a lot of WoW and not so much Hearthstone, so hopefully with this new update and these new changes, we can see some of these really top, really tier 1 decks kind of get notched down a little bit, in some of these decks that haven't seen as much play, but are a lot of fun to be able to get notched up a little bit. So first things first, a card that everybody knows, Druid is very, very popular. Wildheart Guff is kind of at the core of Druid right now. Your opponent doesn't play Guff, you feel like you have a chance. Your opponent does play Guff on turn like 5 or something, it feels like basically that game is a loss. I'm sure we've all been there. Wildheart Guff is exceedingly powerful, and one of the things it does is be able to get to basically 20 mana very, very quickly, and it does this through the new hero power, which you can basically, you used to spent 2 mana, it gave you 1 mana back, so effectively you only spent 1 mana to ramp 1 mana, which is just really good, and you can do that every turn. Now they've changed it, so Guff, its battle cry gives you a empty mana crystal, and the now hero power gives you an empty mana crystal. So this is kind of a big deal because they're not able to weave in those free mana turns. Like if they want to play Scales and they have 8 mana, they can't ramp and then play Scales, right? They have to either play Scales and or ramp, because the mana crystal that it's going to give them is not ready to be used, it's empty. And this, while it may not seem like a big deal, this is going to drastically change the card, and it's definitely going to make this card a lot worse. Like there's so many situations where that cutoff point is they're able to get that free ramp in each turn because they can ramp and then they only go down 1 mana. So this is a big impact to Guff, and we're going to see a lot of these Druid players probably move over to the token Druid build, that more aggressive style token Druid that we've been seeing a lot of players play. So what I'm assuming is with all of these changes, every single deck that's good right now that doesn't have these cards in it, that deck is going to see more play, and all the players who are currently playing with these cards will just, I don't want to play with that anymore, it's nerfed, so they're just going to switch. So like token Druid doesn't play Guff, right, but it still runs all the other good Druid cards. So probably see a lot of these ramp Druid players move to token Druid. Scooting down to Rogue, Edwin going back to a 4 mana 4/4. This is just so weird. I mean, they're just ping-ponging Rogue back and forth, right? For them to like buff Edwin last patch, which was 3 weeks ago, for them to just revert Edwin back to exactly what he was, like, it's just, it just kind of shows that they have no idea what they're doing for Rogue, to be honest. Like the Guff hit fine, you didn't need to hit Guff for a long time, now it's a problem, now you hit Guff. But Edwin, I mean, they've always had a problem, whether it's this Edwin or the old Edwin that used to be around, or just the Rogue class in general. It feels like they just do not know what they're doing with Rogue. Whether it's like they're doing the secret stuff, are they doing the thief stuff, are they doing tempo pirate stuff, are they doing combo giant weapon stuff? Like Rogue just has no identity to me. Like I don't know what it does, but it does stuff, and it does win games, but like it doesn't have this clear identity that it used to have with like combo cards and drawing, and like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel the same if you've been around for a long time on Rogue. But yeah, Edwin needed to go back regardless. I mean, the card was absolutely broken at 3 mana 3/3. Like there's so many good Rogue cards that they could have made better, or fun Rogue cards that they could have made better or more competitive. But making a card that's already good, like Edwin at a 4 mana 4/4 is already a good card, and you're going to play this in your Rogue deck. There's no reason not to, right? So why don't we take cards that maybe don't see play or aren't already good, and let's make those cards a little bit better, instead of just pushing cards that are already good to broken. And I think that's something that we need to definitely do more often than not in these situations. But we always see cards that are already pretty good, and then they get nerfed over the edge, or they get buffed over the edge, and then they get taken back down once the deck, overperforms. So scrolling down to Dawngrasp's hero power targeting Mage here. So the old one was deal 2 damage, honorable kill, gain 2 damage. The new one is you still do 2 damage, but honorable kill, you gain +1 damage. So this is actually going to slow down the Mage hero power a lot. I think this is a good thing right now. At first, like the Mage Dawngrasp, like it wasn't even like a super played hero power when it first came out. It was actually considered almost too slow. And now it's like the defining, like, it has good early game, it has good mid game, and then it has forever scaling late game. Like, you just, that ping you're gonna get, it can get up to like 8 to 10 damage like pretty quickly, as soon as you get Dawn Grasp down, because you have stuff like Reckless and Brand Reckless. We're able to shoot pings everywhere, and then of course you've got like Mordreth in there. So there's just a lot of ways for Mage to get this up very, very quickly. So now that it's +1, we'll see that ramp kind of slow down, but it still has the inevitable factor to it. And we also, I mean, they're running Rune of the Archmages as well, and that also gives the wildfires most of the time, to be honest. So Mage, I think even with this change, Mage still does the same thing. It's just slower, and it gives other classes that don't have access to infinitely scaling hero powers, it gives them a chance to actually do something, and I think that's important. I don't like playing, you know, like a meme quest warlock deck or like a meme quest shaman to on turn 9 have to deal with an 8 damage 2 mana hero power. I mean, 3 turns, that's almost 30 life. I mean, that's not even close to being fair. And like if you're playing like control versus control, right? So next we have Night Cloak Sanctum. This is going to go down to 2 durability. Most of the time the mages actually have been cutting Kel'Thuzad anyway. So now that mages not only already have started cutting Kel'Thuzad, now this only has 2 durabilities. So that's a skeleton less that you get. That's 1 turn freeze that less that you get. I don't think this actually is going to see play anymore. Spending 3 mana to freeze twice and summon 2/2/2 skeletons just may not be good enough. At 3 durability, it definitely was too good because it felt like you could never attack with a minion. But at 3 mana, 2 durability, now it just doesn't feel good enough to like warrant to see play, right? Like it just seems bad now. Like, it would have been interesting if they would have made it a 2/2, but maybe then that's just like all of a sudden too good again, right? So what if you make it like a 4/3, you know, make it 4 mana and then it costs 3. So I don't know, but this does not, I think the card dies here, to be honest. I don't think Night Cloak Sanctum's very good anymore, but I could be wrong. I mean, freezing 2 minions for 3 mana in itself is, I guess, okay. And then the skeletons deal like what, 4, so it may be good enough. I don't think so, but we'll see. The freeze effects for Mage, though, right now are kind of insane. Like, when you just play a minion against Mage, like, you just assume that you're never attacking with it. Like, I remember we played, like, a Stewart. We were playing, like, a pure Paladin deck, right? We played the 3-mana 3/3 Stewart on turn 3, or we coined him out on 2 or something, and I was unable to attack with that card until turn, I think, 13, at which I died to, like, a 12-mana hero, or 12 damage hero power. Like, the 3/3 never attacked. I never got the hero power and give the buff to a dude that, because of Stewart's death rattle, like, he was frozen the whole game. Like, I never was able to attack. Checking out the Hunter quest. The old one was deal damage with 2 spells. The new one is deal damage with 3 spells. They're increasing the first part of the first quest. I think this is important. Most of the quests have been changed in some way that makes them slower to complete. We've seen it done with the Pirate Warrior deck. It's actually been nerfed like 2 or 3 times. We've seen it with the Quest Warlock or Quest Shaman deck. We've seen it with Quest Warlock, and now finally the Hunter, which should have been done way sooner, because at first they targeted the Dragonbane shot, the 2 mana that would just copy itself, and they said that was good enough. But I mean, at the end of the day, quest hunters, especially XL quest hunters, are completing their quest on turn 6, 7 anyway, like every game. So this should delay it till about 7, 8, and I think that's a little bit better, just because quest hunter, it's a very frustrating deck to play against, no lie. And it's like, you play, whether or not you play minions, this deck doesn't care. Like, this deck is going to kill you regardless of whatever you do, but if you happen to play minions, it's also just going to kill you. Like, this deck doesn't play minions. So I think that's what the frustrating part, because like, you'll have spells or minions in your deck that like combat or like are used as AoE or whatever against minions, but if your opponent's deck doesn't contain minions, you feel like there's a lot of cards in your deck that just don't do anything because your opponent's deck just doesn't have that feature to it. So definitely like seeing Quest Hunter nerf there. Definitely not one of my favorite decks to play against or play. Sin Strider, I just don't like cards like this in general. I'm happy to see this get changed. Its old cost was 6, its new cost is 8. It's really weird that they just kept this every 3rd minion you play each turn costs 0. I think this is just a stupid change. They should have just made this card cost 7 mana like the other one, Sunstrider, and then every 3rd minion you play costs 1. They already know what to do. They've already had this card come out. They have already balanced this card twice before, And now they're balancing this card again, and they're doing it not how they did the other card, which is already fine. So just make this card the same as the other one. You already know what you're supposed to do. Stop trying to be fancy about it and keep it at a 0 mana. You know, every third minion you play costs 0. Because no matter what, this card, even at 8, whether it's this expansion, the mini set, or a couple expansions away, or it'll be in Wild, this will still lead to combos that will revert this card to being changed to each turn. It'll cost 1 instead of 0. Whenever things cost 0, there's always going to end up being some sort of combo, OTK, or synergy that makes it broken. It's always happened. It'll always happen. And right now, this may fix it. But again, this doesn't fix the issue of 0 mana things. You need to pay mana for stuff. Unless it's Emperor Tharzan, then that guy's fine because that guy's cool. But for the most part, Sin Strider can just go to, like I said, 7 mana, make this cost 1, and end of the story. Do the same thing as the other one. Smothering Starfish. This was a weird one for them to target, but it kind of makes sense because it's a neutral card. It's kind of like the Ironbeak Owl treatment, right? So before Ironbeak Owl was a 2 mana, 2/1, silence whatever you wanted. There was no reason not to play it in your deck. It was a great, just good in general. And it only had upside silence. But now Starfish is basically found in any sort of control deck, even in some aggro decks. And that's just because as a 3 mana minion, he's 2/4, decently statted, and he has an insane ability. So now at 4 mana, this is actually more of a tech card instead of just an, I don't want to say autofill, but there's you have to want to play this card now, and you have to play him for a reason instead of just playing him because you can and because he's good no matter what. And silencing all minions is a powerful effect, and having an expensive cost to that now makes sense. So now when you see Starfish, there's like they chose to run that card at a heavy now nerf because of the effect works or synergizes with their deck. So I think that's important. I think Starfish going to 4 is fine. And then the following cards have been adjusted up in power. School Teacher is going back to a 4 mana 4/4. So again, they nerfed this card down to a 4 mana 4/3 because it was played in pretty much every deck. Basically, this was like the Theo of last expansion. Aggro decks played it, mid-range decks played it, control decks played it. School Teacher was just a really, really good card, especially with Brand, of course. And now it is being reverted back to its old 4/4 state. While like Naga Mage doesn't really see much play, you have Warrior, which played School Teacher with From the Depths, and From the Depths had cost 3. Naga Lynx could get it from that, but since everything got nerfed, there's just a lot of decks that this guy fit in that got nerfed. So reverting this guy back to 4/4, sure, it's fine. I mean, I don't mind it. He's a cool neutral card. There's a bunch of other cards that I wish would have seen some buffs as well. But I don't really have any. School Teacher can go back to a 4/4. It's whatever. The power level of Hearthstone right now is not going to make or break by changing something from a 4 mana 4/3 to a 4 mana 4/4. Same thing with this Bannerman card. Like, okay, so Paladin now has a 3 mana 2/2 instead of a 3 mana 2/1. I still don't like Paladin. I still don't like Bannerman, and I still don't like that the entire package of Paladin is either play only Paladin cards or just buff Paladin cards. Like, I don't want to say, like, instead of like Paladin has the inverse thing of Rogue. Rogue just doesn't have an identity. It's just like there's all these things that Rogue can do, but it doesn't really, it does some of them good, but for the most part, Rogue doesn't feel like it used to. And then Paladin has only done buffs, divine shields, and pure for the past 3 years now. I don't like what other Paladin. We had Mech Paladin, which is just like a pure mech or pure buff. And then we have Pure Paladin, which is just Paladin cards. And then if you have Holy Paladin, well, that's just Paladin cards. And if you have Buff Paladin, that's just Paladin cards. And if you Dude Paladin, that's just Paladin cards. Like, there's no, like, what is the, oh, God, I just don't like Paladin. I guess there's like this new Dragon Paladin that's floating around, but I don't, obviously that's not like a super competitive deck. It's fun, it's cool, but like, I don't know. Paladin needs something that makes me like it again. Like, anything can happen. Paladin was pretty fun. Shrivala Paladin was good. Four Horsemen Paladin was acceptable. There was a decent amount of old Paladin that was pretty fun. But like this new level of Paladin is just like, It is painful, bro. It is so painful. So with that, I believe that is all of the standard balance changes that we are going to see this patch. The rest of them are BGs. I don't play BGs. If you're going to play BGs, I recommend TFT instead. But regardless, yeah, this is all. I think this is going to definitely shake up the meta. All those ramp druid players, all the skeleton ping mage players, they're going to have to play something else because people hate playing with cards once they get nerfed. And then after 3 weeks, some pro player plays the same deck that people have been playing that got nerfed, and then people realize that the deck that they played that was really good that got nerfed is still good, and then they all just migrate back to that deck. But we have at least a week or two of new deck exploration before that happens. So with that, thank you guys for watching. Of course, let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll catch you in the next video. With that, I'm Robert Warshack, and happy whatever the hell day it is.